Aloha, this is Anna Surfing. Welcome to Beach Broadcast. Today is Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. How are you all doing? How are your hearts? So much is going on, right? I just have been in very solemn, joyfully tearful frame of mind, and it's painful at the same time because you see the recovery of those that had suffered while they were hostages, and now they have their freedom. That's why I couldn't record for the last couple of days. I couldn't narrate a podcast. I want to thank you for joining us on santasurfing.locals.com as well as on x.com. I do want to thank you for that. All of my daily podcasts will now be featured only on YouTube. Here's the channel right here. It's at beach_broadcast. So you could find it right here. And these are my only social media accounts. I only have one on each of the social media platforms. So anybody else is a poser. So the title of this post is Excellency President Trump. That's a quote. GESARA is truly happening, although it's not announced as GESARA, and peace is truly the prize. President Trump, he had what a remarkable 5 days, 6 days, and he's not unstoppable. So these are just the clips on the video on some of the homecoming events that had happened and the hostages that came back. Now, many people are saying, well, this is just a movie. This is where the confusion lies. If you take a look at many of these hostages, they were very emaciated. You could see in their eyes the pain. You could see when they were embracing their family members. I mean, these are individuals, if you look at the before and the after, 2 years ago in October 2023 to today, they look completely different. So as part of the movie, perhaps this is not part of that movie. Our show is sponsored by GOLDCO. Now, GOLDCO has been a sponsor of ours for 3 years. Why? Because many people have been seeing the rewards and they're watching gold surge, breaking 4,000, 4,100. When I first started talking about GOLDCO back in 2022, in August of 2022, it was hovering at 1,800, so it's more than doubled. Imagine if you had a precious metal IRA, you had your funds in the account back there 3 years ago, what your portfolio would look like today. So contact GOLDCO. They'll answer every question that you have. You can chat with them online, or you can go ahead and chat with them over the phone and tell them Santa sent you. But you can go to santasurfinglikesgold.com. And if you're interested to know how much can I actually earn in free silver, because you can transfer a little bit or all of it of your 401k or your retirement funds, there's a calculator on our website and the sponsor link below. And our show is also sponsored by ABSOLVE, which has been a sponsor of ours for 4 years, over 4 years. They got really busy lately, especially after President Trump and Robert Kennedy made their announcement about the causes of autism in children and how a certain particular type of drug, acetaminophen, had caused the autism. So many people, adults, are turned to this natural supplement, and ABSOLVE got very busy. So contact ABSOLVE. They are a natural supplement. They've been made. This product is made in the United States and has been in business for almost 25 years. They are offering, with any combo order, a free bottle for your ABSOLVE. So that's a $40 value. And with any order, you'll get a free Solar Trump gift with any order. So contact ABSOLVE by going to our sponsor link below. In my humble opinion, this is not part of the plot of the movie. In as much as President Trump did say central casting, I think he was referring to something else, which I'll get to in just a moment. But these are just some very heartwarming moments, and this is why I couldn't record, because of just watching. And I think a lot of you were feeling the same way about having just that we don't even speak Hebrew. We don't understand what they're saying. We don't need to, because of the joy, the jubilee that they're experiencing and being united with their loved ones again. And the embracing. Now, I think many of you are also thinking about, boy, I really wish my family could do that. I wish that I could have these reunions with my family here in America that have pretty much disowned me because of my beliefs and because of my support for President Trump, for my support for the Constitution. It will come. It may not come from your family directly at this time, but it will come in other ways. And so this is why virtual hugs are so important, and just to embrace each other. And this young man here, he was so happy to hear about his sisters alive. And then the mom was telling him then even his dog is still alive. And he's like, Uni is still alive? So just those precious moments. But all of the hostages that did come home, we just need to now pray for their healing, and that they can overcome the pain, the suffering, emotional, physical, psychological pain. So please do keep them in your prayers at all times. President Trump, here's just his highlights of some of the things that he mentioned when he was in Israel, in Knesset, Israel, and his speech. I just want to point out some of the highlights in the speech. Listen to this.
Give our deepest thanks to the Almighty God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. After 2 harrowing years in darkness and captivity, 20 courageous hostages are returning to the glorious embrace of their families, and it is glorious. 28 more precious loved ones are coming home at last to rest in this sacred soil for all of time. And after so many years of unceasing war and endless danger, today the skies are calm, the guns are silent, the sirens are still, and the sun rises on a holy land that is finally at peace, a land and a region that will live, God willing, in peace for all eternity. This is not only the end of a war, this is the end of an age of terror and death, and the beginning of the age of faith and hope and of God. It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East. And let me also convey my tremendous appreciation for all of the nations of the Arab and Muslim world that came together to press Hamas to set the hostages free and to send them home. We had a lot of help. We had a lot of help from a lot of people that you wouldn't suspect, and I want to thank them very much for that. It's an incredible triumph for Israel and the world to have all of these nations working together as partners in peace, and it's pretty unusual for you to see that, but it happened in this case. This was a very unusual point in time, a brilliant point in time. Generations from now, this will be remembered as the moment that everything began to change, and change very much for the better. At least it would be in World War III right now with some of these guys. Everybody loves Steve, and they respect him, and they somehow can relate to him. I've known him for many years, and I've seen it over and over again.
להוציא את חבר הכנסת עודה, להוציא אותו מהאולם, להוציא אותו מיד, החוצה, החוצה.
Please expel this Knesset member. Please expel this Knesset member. Please expel Knesset member Kasif out of the hall. Please expel him immediately. And
That was very efficient. It's been years since you've known a single day of true peace, but now at last, not only for Israelis, but also for Palestinians and for many others, the long and painful nightmare is finally over. And as the dust settles, the smoke fades, the debris is removed, and the ashes cleaned from the air, the day that brakes on a region transformed, and a beautiful and much brighter future appears suddenly within your reach. This is now a very exciting time for Israel and for the entire Middle East, because all across the Middle East, the forces of chaos, terror, and ruin that have plagued the region for decades now stand weakened, isolated, and totally defeated. A new coalition of proud and responsible nations is emerging, and because of us, the enemies of all civilization are in retreat. Thanks to the bravery and incredible skill of the Israeli Defense Forces and Operation Rising Lion, guy's central casting. Let's put him in a movie. Look at him. Great job. And the General and Pete and Marco, you'll get that deal done easy. I think that'll be easy. But first we have to get Russia done. We got to get that one done. If you don't mind, Steve, let's focus on Russia first, all right? We'll get it done. In Lebanon, the dagger of Hezbollah, long aimed at Israel's throat, has been totally shattered. My administration is actively supporting the new president of Lebanon in his mission to permanently disarm Hezbollah's terror brigades. He's doing very well. Success. I have never seen anything like what's going on today all over the world. People are dancing in the streets, not just in Israel. They're dancing in the streets of countries that would have never danced in the street about what's happening today. They're dancing in those streets. So Israel, with our help, has won all that they can by force of arms. You've won. I mean, you've won. Now it's time to translate these victories against terrorists on the battlefield into the ultimate prize of peace and prosperity for the entire Middle East. It's about time you were able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Success. I have never seen anything like what's going on today all over the world. People are dancing in the streets, not just in Israel. They're dancing in the streets of countries that would have never danced in the street about what's happening today. They're dancing in those streets. So this long and difficult war has now ended. You know, some people say 3,000 years, some people say 500 years, whatever it is. It's the granddaddy of them all. And in an unprecedented achievement, virtually the entire region has endorsed the plan that Gaza will be immediately demilitarized, that Hamas will be disarmed, and Israel's security will no longer be threatened in any way, shape, or form. So Israel, with our help, has won all that they can by force of arms. You've won. I mean, you've won. Now it's time to translate these victories against terrorists on the battlefield into the ultimate prize of peace and prosperity for the entire Middle East. It's about time you were able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Mr. Opposition Leader. I said he's a very nice opposition leader. I think... No, he's a nice man. Bibi, he's a nice man. Good. He knows what he's doing, right? No, a very nice guy. Well, see, now you can be a little bit nicer, Bibi, because you're not at war anymore, Bibi. Wealth. You're going to need wealth to rebuild things, and they have wealth like few people have wealth. I want to thank the Arab and Muslim nations for their commitment that they've made to support a safe rebuilding of Gaza and beyond. I have many Arab countries, very wealthy countries, that came up and said, we'll put up tremendous amounts of money to get rebuild Gaza, and I think that's going to happen. The power, they want dignity, they want to come forward, and they want to say, and I want to say who they are, because what they're doing is going to be, I think, something that you're going to be very impressed with, Bibi, and you need that. You need the kind of economic power that they have, and they want to see it work, and they want to see it be safe, and they want to see it be good for Israel, too. And as much money as it will be, and it's a lot, as you can see, it's a lot. For these countries, it's relatively little relative to their worth. It's really a lot of money like most people could never even conceive, but for these countries, it's not that much, especially because it ensures success and stability in the Middle East, which is what they want to see. So many of them will be with us in Egypt in a little while, I think. I'm not sure. They may be gone. They may have taken their Boeing 747s and left. I said, what kind of a plane do you fly? 747. I said, that's a large plane. No, they may have. Steve, do you think they've left on their their brand new Boeing 747s? Or I don't know. We're going to find out soon. It's going to be a big story. Hey, I have an idea. Mr. President, why don't you give him a pardon? Give him a pardon. Come on. This region can be proud of. New bonds of friendship, cooperation, and commerce will join Tel Aviv to Dubai, Haifa to Beirut, Jerusalem to Damascus, and from Israel to Egypt, from Saudi Arabia to Qatar, from India to Pakistan, from Indonesia to Iraq, from Syria to Bahrain, Turkey to Jordan, the United Arab Emirates to Oman, and Armenia to Azerbaijan, another war that I just settled. We are going to have hope, harmony, opportunity, and happiness here in the spiritual and geographic center of the entire world. That's what you are. Israel, America, and all of the nations of the Middle East will soon be safer, stronger, greater, and more prosperous than ever before. And I want to thank you all once again for this exceptional honor. This has been truly an honor. It's seldom that a president is invited to do this. And I love Israel. I'm with you all the way. You will be bigger, better, stronger, and more loving than ever before. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And God bless the Middle East. Thank you, everybody. Good luck.
The people in the Middle East aren't used to the way that President Trump does relay messages and comms, so I think he had to tone it down a little bit. He did say 3,500. 500 does, Q500 does start with DEFCON 1. I will not go through that part of this podcast today. I'm going to do that tomorrow because between Dan Scavino, President Trump with an umbrella, and Kirill Dmitriev, who is much like what Marco Rubio is to President Trump, he is that individual to President Putin. How they're hinting storms. So I want to do that for tomorrow's podcast. But in this one here, President Trump was really emphasizing he's first of all honoring God Almighty, and then he's talking about peace and prosperity and the dawn of a new Middle East, and that we would have there would be peace for eternity. When we started to talk about NESARA and GESARA back in 2020, who would have ever thought that we would actually see it happen in front of our eyes? Many of us, and even though I reported it, there were times I said, I want to see how this is going to really roll out, because back then I had a little help, and I was informed that there would be peace, and that all evil, hardcore evilness would be eradicated. There would still be petty crimes, but not to the extent that we have been fighting against, we've been exposing, yeah. So President Trump pretty much confirmed everything that we are rolling out in terms of the peace. Now I want to go ahead and just share some of the highlights. I didn't have time, guys. I'm a one-man band, two-man band actually. In terms of trying to piece it all together for the speech he had in Egypt, but it was very, very strong and very powerful. So I just went ahead and gave you some notes on it. So the Egyptian president, El-Sisi, and then President Trump, they were both co-hosting this particular part of the, while he was in Egypt. And they had the dates between the 13th and the 14th because in our time it was the 13th, but in their time it was the 14th of October. The Egyptian president introduced and praised President Trump by introduced him as His Excellency, the American President, Donald J. Trump. Then he continued on and said, Excellency Trump, President. And then he said, peace remains a strategic option, Excellency President Trump. And then he's talking about the Strip, the Gaza Strip, to go under reconstruction. And then we look ahead to a bright future. And then he mentioned that he was giving the Order of the Nile Award to President Trump. It is a pure gold collar consisting of 3 square gold unites on which they are pharaonic symbols. There has only been, well, Jimmy Carter, I guess, got one. I don't know why. And then Ronald Reagan before that. President Trump is in this era. There's only a few that received this particular award. The order has been bestowed on over 100 prominent figures since 1915. The recent awards highlights its role in international diplomacy. President Donald J. Trump, Their Excellency, on what he had done with the in the Middle East, and then we have Modi from India. The strengthening India and Egypt ties, King Philippe VI, King Solomon from Saudi Arabia, King Hamad bin Isa Khalifa from Bahrain, all right, for the Abraham Accords support. Then the Nelson Mandela Global Human Rights Advocacy, Queen Elizabeth II, and Ronald Reagan here, Cold War era alliances, and then Jacques Chirac from France, Franco-Egyptian partnerships. And then there were others given to other individuals as well, but I just wanted to kind of give you some of the notables. It's a very short list. It's not much. It's not like the somebody being knighted in the UK. I guess they give out quite a few thousands of those a year. This is a very distinguished type of an award. And then the Egyptian president was introducing President Trump as His Excellency Donald Trump. President Trump, he spoke very briefly. It wasn't his long speech. It was about 30 minutes, but it was enough for him to cover many, many things. But he did have the Pakistani, he did thank the escort of the 6 fighter jets that escorted him. Again, this is what we see, what we're seeing in the UK, what we're seeing in the Middle East back in May of 2015, or 2025, excuse me. And then what we're seeing now isn't how a president of the United States is treated. He's being treated much like royalty. He is given a military escort. There were 6 fighter jets that escorted President Trump into Egypt, and it was a view, this is from Dan Scavino, a view from above F-15QA multi-role strike fighters of the Qatari Emirate Air Force. Remember, the Qatar military is going to be opening up a base in America. So there's going to be tremendous amount of alliances that we're going to start to see, and it's incredible. These, where it says 16-0, those are the minute markers, estimated minute markers, if you want to go ahead and pick up on any of that. The Pakistani and Prime Minister, he had so much sincerity, and he says, "My dear President Trump." Then he talked about the greatest day in history. Trump is genuinely a man of peace. Trump is to bring peace and prosperity. He nominated President Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize genuinely feel that he is the most genuine and wonderful candidate because he saved millions of people's he saved millions of people, saved lives. He saved their lives. I would like to salute you. Oh, I got tears in my eyes when I saw that. You're the man this world needed most in this time. You stopped 8 wars. Had it not been for this gentleman, he was pointing to President Trump, during this 4 days, the war would have escalated. And then your valuable contribution, God bless you. God give you a long life to serve. President Trump, he was so gracious in accepting all of this notoriety, but President Trump is all about getting things done. President Trump did introduce the president of Indonesia. He did not speak. He was just introduced. He was talking about how there were people that he brought, world leaders that he brought to the Oval Office. They were fighting. And at the end of the meeting, they were all together. And that's what it's all about, right? He really praised and talked about Viktor Orban. And then he says, he was talking about Iraq and lots of oil. Italy, I'll share the countries that were there. Italy, she's a beautiful woman. Okay. Then he had UK Keir. He said, is he here? And then Keir Starmer walks up to the podium, and President Trump exchanges a few words and didn't give him a chance to speak. And then, because Keir was ready to go ahead and start talking, and President Trump just shunned him. 8 months, and President Trump said, 8 months, we have 17 trillion, close to 18, breaking 18 trillion in 8 months. A few of them I don't like at all. He's talking about some of the leaders that were in the room, but most of you I like a lot. And then he said, steps to peace is the hardest. He said, many people will be dancing in the streets. He talks about dancing in the streets. Then he talked about hope everyone will join the Abraham Accords. 4 great nations joined early on and stayed on, and then he also emphasized that they're doing very well. The 4 nations were a lot wealthier because of it. There's that. And then he talked about his 20-point plan. Let me just go ahead and scroll up. The 20-point plan, we're in stage 3 and 4. So the 20-point plan is that link I just clicked. It takes you to this entire Grok thread. I've been asking questions all related to this podcast. So if he's saying right here, Hamas will release 20 living Israeli hostages, and then 4 in exchange, Israel will release approximately 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees, and then eventually we'll start moving into these stages. Israel will halt all military operations. All hostages are returned. Upon acceptance, full humanitarian aid will immediately enter Gaza, reopening the Rafah crossing in both directions. Gaza will be governed under temporary transitional governance. This committee will be overseen and supervised by the new International Board of Peace chaired by President Trump. The board will enforce complete demilitarization of Gaza, establishment of a special economic zone in Gaza, reconstruction of Gaza as a new Gaza, focus on prosperity, private sector led. This is so incredible for the people of Gaza. Now I'll eventually tie it into how it affects the world. So please, those in America, please hang in tight. No forced displacement of Palestinians from Gaza, establishment of interfaith dialogue process based on tolerances and coexistence to shift narratives among Palestinians and Israel's, highlighting peace benefits. Everything's about peace. United States will facilitate dialogue between Israel and Palestinians for a political horizon, monitoring of ceasefire and demilitarization of U.S., Qatar, Egyptian, and Turkish mediators. Hamas and other militants fully excluded from governance. Phased approach, phase 1, ceasefire, hostage exchange, phase 2, partial withdrawal, aid surge, committee formation, phase 3, full withdrawal. Now we are seeing a lot of phase 2, and we're going into the next phase, full withdrawal, reconstruction, PA handover. Talks for permanent peace begin in phase 1. This plan, if fully implemented, will end the war immediately and lay foundations for regional stability. Unbelievable. So there wasn't any, I was trying to find out the comms. One is the dancing in the streets. So I just did a search on in the streets. There's about 4 Q posts on it. 2 are deep state related, but this one here, POTUS will be insulated, protected on Air Force One and abroad while these operations are concluded or conducted. Due to the nature of the entrenchment, it is time to take back our country and make America great again. Let us salute and pray for the brave men and women in uniform who will undertake this assignment to bring forth peace, unity, and return to the people. It is our hope that this message reaches enough people to make a meaningful impact. We cannot yet telegraph this message through normal methods for reasons I'm sure everyone here can understand. Follow the questions on the previous threads and remain calm. The primary targets are within DC and remain at the top on both sides. The spillover in the streets will be quickly shut down. Quickly shut down. Look for more false flags. Stay alert. Be vigilant. And above all, please pray. And then he has John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Love is patient. Love is kind. God bless my fellow Americans. DJT 4:10:20, which is President Trump. So tying everything that has been happening, we cannot, I'm going to read this again, we cannot telegraph this message through normal methods for reasons I'm sure everyone here can understand. President Trump, in my humble opinion, you decide. He cannot say, we just signed GESARA. This is it. We've finalized the GESARA. It's a wrap. If he said that, the financial world would go freaking ballistic. They will go crazy. The deep, lower level, wherever's left, deep state will go crazy. And you think, why won't they be happy for our prosperity? Why won't they be happy for us winning? Look what's going on with the riots out on the streets in America. And they're fighting because they want to protect illegal criminals. Think about the mindset of those people. Those are the ones that will get outraged because it's all coming from President Trump. And the end is not for everybody. So those people that don't want goodness for humanity, they're not going to. Again, I think the end is not for everybody, has many, many meanings. So again, I just want to reiterate that. Again, President Trump was trying to give us hints he couldn't telegraph his moves. Now, going further, how is Gaza going to get rebuilt? Let's think like President Trump for just a moment. Gaza, the rebuilding, thinking outside the box. How is this done? President Trump, he received upwards of $18 trillion in quote-unquote investments in 8 months. He began his trade and tariff deals immediately January 2025 in the public eye. But for us surfers, anons, patriots that have been kind of doing the digging and knowing that President Trump was the commander-in-chief from 2021 to early 2025, we know that he was doing a lot of things to get things rolling, right? So let's just say President Trump already previously received those investment monies. Now, I'm just using this as a hypothetical because I'm trying to think like President Trump. I mean, he had to pay Intel $9.4 billion. Rather than using tax dollars, he went ahead and invested it in Intel stock at a dirt cheap price. The stock surged 50% in less than a month, and he was able to pay that $9.4 billion with that increase. And of course, I'm sure he put the rest in our sovereign wealth fund. But let's just use this as an example. This is just an example. Let's say President Trump, he already received the 18 trillion. Okay, let's just say that because they have to do a lot of things for the public eye. And let's say he received it last year around May, June, July of 2024. Let's say it's only analogy, a scenario, an example, but let's say he invested it in the XRP, okay? And let's say that on July of 2025, XRP had then surged to 3.49 a token, right? That was a 523% increase. Okay, so if we took the $18 trillion investment, I know you guys are already looking at the chart here, the 523% increase for that 1 year, guess what? That $18 trillion investment equates to 9.4 quadrillion. I'm using XRP as an example. It may not have been XRP. It could have been Bitcoin. It could have been, I don't know. But we've seen many, many significant surges with different types of alternative investing, alternative assets. 9.4 quadrillion. Okay, so now let's take a look at the global debt. The world's total global debt is $337.7 trillion by the end of quarter two, which is June 30th of 2025. So let's just say it's upwards of 350 trillion. Okay, but let's say 337.7 because I'm going to give you an example in just a moment. Now, so that's the world's total debt. Now that includes private, which is household and corporate. So it's government and private. Okay. Now, let's take the estimate to rebuild Gaza in the Middle East. For Gaza, it's going to be about 50 to 80 billion. For the Middle East, it's going to be about, I'm going to just say 700 billion. Let's just slant on the conservative. So let's think like President Trump again. I'm telling you, we are dealing with different mindsets in our government with the administration. I'm not going to say our government because he's got them, they're closed, but with our administration. So thinking like President Trump in this scenario, it's not an actual, but let's take that 18 trillion and in investment money. And even if he says, you give me, so between four nations, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and one other country. Anyway, it came out to 3.2 trillion that they gave. But President Trump keeps talking about 17, 18 trillion. So let's say he says, come on, give me the money. I'll invest it for you. Don't worry. You'll get your money back or whatever. We'll find a way to rebuild. We'll make it. There's going to be a level playing field somewhere. So if you took the 18 trillion, again, I showed you this already, 9.4 quadrillion, okay? Then we have the global debt. So that's 337 trillion. The balance is still over $9 quadrillion. And then we have to, let's say, rebuild the Middle East, which is $700 billion, right? So the balance is still over $9 quadrillion. Talk about prosperity for around the world. This is what President Trump and the other world leaders are saying, peace and prosperity. If you take the money out of the equation in your life, you have no debt. Some of you are very fortunate to be in that position. You have no debt whatsoever. You have, let's say you didn't have to think about that. Your life, you have freedom in your soul, right? You don't feel like you have to be confined to a job, working a job. Breaks my heart to see as somebody that can't really work, a 70, 80-year-old working at a Walmart bagging groceries, and it breaks my heart. That person shouldn't be working. That person should be thriving. And that's where President Trump wants to take, not just here in America, the people around the world. So what politicians that do nothing for the American people, President Trump, he's done much more in 15 days of the government shutdown than they did as a government, right? The nation may ask, did we really need a government with all those politicians and agencies that siphons our tax dollars and line their own pockets? Our own government members would take those trillions in investments, quote unquote investments, and they'll start to line their own pockets. We've never seen an administration where they said, oh, we're going to take this and let's make it so that everyone prospers. Never, never. Think of your favorite president. Never. Okay. In my lifetime, never. They did it with the $5 trillion in annual tax dollars that they got, and then they used those funds for non-American building operations and stupid things, like what U.S. aid was doing, and then funding violence as well. We didn't vote for that. President Trump is doing things the right way by investing and building. Now, he's hinting that we may not need politicians. Check this out. President Trump through Il Donato says, starting to think we don't actually need politicians. And he reposted a leading report, which is breaking. There is now a 69% chance that the government will remain shut down for more than 30 days. All right, so there's Polymarket and leading report. They're kind of giving a little bit of like statistical analysis on predictions of and government people or administration people are using that information, including Elon Musk. So it makes me wonder, will President Trump show the world just how this country can run without politicians, Congress, maybe pay Congress an hourly rate like 17, 18, whatever minimum wages, hourly rate only when they're needed, if they're needed for confirmations, but no overtime pay, no vacation pay, no bar tab pay, no swanky dinner pay, none of that. Then we'll start to see politicians much like you look at yourself in the mirror. Did you look at yourself in the mirror, by the way, and thank yourself, by the way? Okay, I hope you did. Do it again, please. They're going to look for people just like you that will do this for nothing, because isn't that what you're doing right now? Aren't you most of you doing this right now for nothing? You're doing out there, you're fighting like crazy, right? So that what? We can have our country back. President Trump will he eventually dismantle the political structure to that which is constitutional? Our world truly is transitioning, and while President Trump had the following nations meet in one place to work out a peace deal. Isn't this just peace and prosperity deal? Isn't this GESARA? I'm just going to scroll. I'm not going to read all the countries, but I'm going to just show you all of the countries and the leaders that were there at this Egyptian peace deal summit. How incredible is that? So President Trump reiterated that he is going to heaven. He first said on the airplane, I don't know if I'm going to heaven. Well, I'm wondering if he's just trolling the left, just getting the crazy people to just go, oh my gosh. All right. Then he said, I've earned my way to heaven. And I was like, oh, I'm paraphrasing that. But that's very exciting because we're all chosen ones to do God's work. Think about that. President Trump needed you. God chose you. God chose President Trump. God chose his administration to rule, to just run and just take all the truth and put it out there so that we can get to where we are today. Had it not been for your fight, because your fight has been also for the children, but please remember, you are also God's children. So when you're fighting for the children, because many of you are selfless, that you're fighting also for your peers around you. And that's exactly what we're facing, is this peace throughout the world. The prosperity will follow. Have an abundantly beautiful, peaceful day. Look in the mirror. Cry if you need to. Really cry, because I think we got a lot of emotions bottled up. And just thank our Lord in heaven for the glory that we're facing. We're going to have some rough roads again, but we know that the outcome will be glorious. God bless you so abundantly, and I give you very big surfer hugs, and spend time with God whenever you can. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast, and please subscribe to our channel if you're interested, and then you'll get notifications on our next podcast, but I will have another podcast very soon. Aloha.